What is up? What is up, everybody? It is three the magic number, and we are going to talk about the storm day sign and Mayan astrology. Uh, More preferably called the Mayan calendar because the Mayan calendar is not. Astrology is a misnomer when we talk about or say the term Mayan astrology because it's not based on the position of the stars at birth and using that to find information about a person's character, personality, spirit, etc., life path, so on and so forth. Mayan calendar is based on basically shamans entered trance states in ancient times, and they pretty much decoded the archetype of spiritual energy that governed a certain day and how it changed from day to day. So Mayan calendar. If you're on my page, you probably already know this from previous videos that there's 20 day signs, 20 archetypical day sign energies and spirits that we get into and that we have. And today I'm going to talk about the day sign of storm or rain or rainstorm, as the background audio also, suggests. I got some thunder in the background for approval. And this shit's really fun. This shit's really fun. I love the background audios that accompany the content I'm trying to put out. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get into it. No time wasting over here. So, Cauac is a Yucatan name for this day sign, and Yucatan is one of the languages over there where this system sort of comes from in Maya, right? And I'm gonna start this. I don't know how long this audio is gonna be. I'm thinking maybe half hour at least, because we can get into a lot of stuff. We're definitely gonna get into a lot of stuff. But I'm just gonna go and give an overview of this storm sign energy and what it comprises of. But just to before we go any further, I just kind of want to reiterate a philosophy I have when I talk about the day signs is I kind of will center everything I say about this sign or everything I've learned about this sign from various sources and relate it to the glyph, to its symbol, right? So everything I say is going to be related to the archetype of a storm and what a storm entails and means. So, and that makes it easy to just remember and tie everything all together, right? And I like to do that, make it make sense, be able to explain this as if I was explaining it to a 5-year-old. So let's get into the overview of a storm sign person. Okay. And if I haven't said it, this storm is the 19th day sign of the 20 day signs uh, within the Mayan calendar. So the personality of a person of a storm sign, they are really they have a vigorous, very energetic, lively energy that they got. Youthfulness too is also part of it. Very lively, friendly, and not to forget, very helpful. They're not afraid to, go out of their way to help someone or help people in their community or family. And they do have an important place within society, and that's because of how they engage with it. And when you think about the youthful, vigorous, lively, energetic, type of energy, that's exactly what's going on in the background right now. Like the storm carries that vigorous, lively energy, right? It has a lot of force and life force behind it. Okay, and the other thing about storms is that, like when you think about rain, it brings a certain kind of purification, right? A certain type of washing away of the old, or just being able to, fiercely blow away at stagnant shit, right? So when you think about things that are stagnant, they cause blockages, disease, so on and so forth. So ideas of healing and purification come into play when dealing with the storm sign energy. Okay. Um, and furthermore, they're lively people, like I said, talkative. I already said that they're friendly. They have a very active mind. Okay. And they don't like to give up. Like I said, they got a lot. They got a lot in them. They got a lot of life force. So they're compelled to, strive in a sense, right? Or, like I said, not give up. And they like to. They're Like I said, when you think about the youthfulness of this energy, you can tie it back to the childhood mentality of being able to be interested in learning and loving to learn, a curious mind, and very good at teaching as well, right? And they like to seek new experiences. They often meet their inner and outer limits. And one thing I like to say about these kinds of people, or this energy, is when it comes to risk, they may have a tendency to act on impulse some of the times, and learn things in retrospect, right? Taking action without thinking clearly about everything. There's a certain like inner confidence that they kind of have, sort of like how sometimes adolescents may think that they're ready for something but not yet, but they have this strong third chakra activity, if you want to go there, where they just feel the energy that guides them and that compels them, again, youthful, vigorous, energetic. It's ready to go, ready to jump, right? So sometimes that leads to a bit of recklessness, and they can earn themselves a couple wounds, and they may learn things from in that route. Not necessarily going to say they learn the hard way, but it's their way, some of the times. And it's not even a bad thing that they like to take risks. Being a risk taker is actually a very good quality, and it does yield positive results as well. They do get rewarded for their behavior, right? So they often meet their inner and outer limits. They meet the border of what they are. Like, they think of a storm. A storm really stretches pretty far. It's not afraid to travel across an ocean, like, or the Caribbean, or it's not afraid to go places and touch or kiss the limits. You know what I'm saying? And again, that very youthful energy that they have, tied back again with the storm, uh, they may age very well. See what I'm saying? They age very well, again, because of that youthfulness that they got. They just have a lot of power, strength, youthfulness in there on the surface, but they also have a much deeper side, and we're going to get into this as well. All right, they do dabble into or have interest with spirituality, philosophies, religious themes and ideas. They got that side going on for them as well. And one thing that we can say, because I did mention earlier how they're very likely to help people within their community and within their family. This is also called the sign of the universal community, or just community, okay? They're very much connected to group consciousness. And their social identity or their social relationships are so key to them, whether it's family, extended family, uh, the ethnic group or social class belong to, community. More so community based, I would say, though, or I would argue, but that sense or feeling of community and belonging to a part of a group is very important for these people. And it can also be very true the other way around, that the community may also value these people as well. It's sort of like you reap what you sow, in a sense, right? Where you give a lot to the community, and the community sees you as very important to them as well. You could say, again, a storm will stretch over an entire city, an entire village, an entire area. It covers all of that. So when you think of a storm and how it's like the wind energy that's hovering over an entire, like I said, community, you can kind of picture that as a group consciousness just swirling around. And that aspect of or that facet of that metaphor or symbol is part of what is comprised within the energy of a person of Cauac, or storm. Lightning agrees to what I'm saying. I just like to say that. But yeah, so definitely community, family, and sometimes their purpose may have something to do with serving their social group or society in general. Like I said, family bonds are very strong and important, and they may feel very supported by their parents or extended family. Like I said, because it's just one of the themes, family, community, and support going either way. It's one thing that they can expect. or a person can expect if they have this, day sign. And they may be very good, sons and daughters and parents. And we're gonna get into that kind of stuff, right? And the bonds with the mother is very important as well. You know what I'm saying? They have a very, very tight bond with the mother. And one thing about this energy is that it has a very strong feminine signature to it. So no doubt, the mama is going to be really important, or the feminine is going to be very important here. And yeah, pretty much that was just an overview, or a very quick overview. At the end of this video, I mean, sorry, yeah, it is a video. I'm used to calling this shit audios because I'm recording it as an audio, but yeah. At the end of this, I'm going to give you like some sources of the information I have, but this video in and of itself, I'm sure is going to be a great resource. I'm going to get into as much as I can about this energy. And if y'all would like a Mayan calendar or Mayan astrology, whatever you want to call it, reading afterwards, you can definitely hit me up. Link is in the bio. DM me on Instagram. We can get you started. I definitely want to allow people or encourage people to explore this system and this tool, because it really does help them pretty much understand the type of energy and themes that they kind of carry in their lifetimes. And pretty much if this is a movie, the character you're here to play, sort of thing. And let me touch on the psychological profile a little bit about these Cauac storm folks. Freedom is a big thing. Freedom is, they're pushing boundaries a lot. And like I said, storm, energetic, vigorous, it kind of likes to, and this is something that, in so many words, when you're out there in a storm, you kind of know what this means. Like when I say they're freedom lovers and you hear the background sound, I don't got to explain it. You already know what's going on with these folks, alright? You already know what's going on. They love the free flow of life and they like to express it without fear. They don't like structure so much. Although they're very community, loving folks, they have a very special dance when it comes to structures, ideas, or concepts that can be limiting. They love their freedom, but also they kind of like want to have a bit of structure in the back of their mind or somewhere within their space or livelihoods, because it just helps to give them a little bit of an anchor. They don't want to go off the rails all the way. What else can I say about this? I got some notes over here that I'm reading off of. Yeah, they don't want to completely dissolve themselves in absolute freedom as well. And I'm going to touch on why in a bit. They're also able to change their mood very quickly and fast, right? They're able to observe the fast movements of their emotions and not be thrown off by them or too attached by them. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about storm energy and wind energy. Like when it's really like just blowing real hard. I don't know what word is the best word to use here. My vocabulary is slipping on me. Please forgive me. But thunderstorms are fast, right? They ain't got no time to wait for you to pick up your umbrella or catch it when it's flying away. It's on to the next thing. You know what I'm saying? It's very again, listen to the fucking background sound. I'm using this as, to help me explain what I'm trying to say, right? Just think about the emotionality and how it's being carried through a storm, and everything's going. It can go quickly, but that's also part of their nature to sort of things within them move like a storm in a sense. You know what I'm saying? So that ain't a hiccup for them. It's part of their nature. They're very passionate as well. Like lightning. Yeah. So what else am I gonna say? I think that's all I got for the psychological profile. The overview did say that I already went into, did give a lot of insights on it. The psychological profile, I just wanted to touch on some of the deeper things within the psyche, right? Like how they relate to emotions, and the love for freedom, which pretty much we went over. And very surprisingly, and I figured this out more so after doing my research and studies, that they do have a very strong spiritual potential, right? They love to enter, to explore their states of consciousness, altered states, and they do have the capacity to accept the dissolution of the ego, and again, all that shit that goes into altered states of consciousness and all of that, they're able to do that meditation and even to express what they pull from those states within their their artistry or passionate things that they do, healing, music, meditations, traveling, so on and so forth. They're able to channel that shit pretty well. So there's definitely a good spiritual potential here that's going on. But anyway, I want to backtrack a little bit on what I just said, and give more of a deeper understanding to energy of Cauac, to energy of the storm, you know. And also from a perspective of actually, let me not get in the way of what I'm about to say. Let me just dive in. So, judging by the name of the sign, storm, a person may feel like because of what it's called, their life is gonna be one long fucking tempest or storm, and that's not necessarily true in a sense, but it depends on how we look at it and the best way to look at it. So we're gonna get into that kind of stuff, right? Oh, and they're also very sensitive people as well. Um, but they may not show you, they may not see that may not be very apparent. They have sometimes a hard-edged attitude from their feminine sign or their left-hand power, so to speak. And this kind of goes into the destiny chart. When you look at a Mayan calendar chart, there's something called a destiny chart where you got your masculine and feminine signs, your past and future sign, and the total is actually 9 signs, but the simple way to look at it, you kind of look at 5 signs, but we're going to get into that in another video. I actually already have a video explaining this, so just look at my playlist on Mayan astrology and you'll find all this information over there. But they may have a hard-edged attitude because of one of the components of their let's say more left hand or feminine attributes, again, which is the serpent, which is saying what they want to say, cook with their tongue and that kind of stuff, or protective of oneself in a sense. I think that's what I can use, because when you think about snakes, they easily go into they know how to protect themselves, or they're acquainted with that. So there's a certain level or a certain way that they may come across where you may feel like you may not be easily aware of the sensitivity that's behind them. They're very compassionate and imaginative, and that's not necessarily every scenario, but I'm just throwing it out there in case you've got storm people who are not openly showing their sensitivity. I just want to say that. Okay, like I said, they're very compassionate. They got great imagination, and when you think about these things, these are water element qualities, right? Compassion, love for community, imagination. So water forms a large part of their psychology, and like I said, this leads to, in a community, everyone uses water, everyone needs water, everyone is, let's say, at least more so in indigenous communities, they're happy when it rains. They call rain a blessing, right? So think about that when you think of storm energy and community, and the idea of service or blessing, right? And even purification and healing as well. And we're going to get deeper into the understanding of that purification, healing aspect of things. Okay, and in the mythology, Cauac storm, it symbolizes the first great offering, and this is based on some ancient Mayan mythologies. And how deep do you want to get into that? Let me just say it's the spirit in which they make sacrificial offerings, right? the spirit of resolution and reconciliation. Again, those are water-esque elemental attributes. Okay, we're looking at the water psychology part of this sign right now. Rainstorm. We can call it a rainstorm at this point, because it's not just about the wind; it's also about the water part too. So definitely some again that sense of offering to other, right? And just to go back to the idea that storm symbolizes trouble and difficulty, especially in how we kind of use the word storm. Like a storm is coming, we're going to think, oh, trouble is coming, you know? Well, there is somewhat of that analogy because it is disruptive. There is a certain level of disruptive energy that comes with it, right? Even when, as parents who got kids and the kids are very lively and energetic, the kids be, doing all kinds of shit around the house that people niggas be like, this is some chaos energy, this kid is out of control. You know what I'm saying? Again, storm, storm, storm. I'm going to tie everything I say to the symbol of storm. And, people, you can think about argumentative, energy, disputes, but the right context to look at so-called difficulty is a social one, right? So difficulties and misunderstandings ruled by this day sign are those which set us apart and separate us from the larger community. It ties back to the community thing, right? So at the very heart of a community, you have home and family. That's like the building block of a community. So think of problems within that social, home, family unit aspects, domestic issues, marital problems, right? Husband, wife quarreling and shit, kids and parents, that disharmony that leads to that affects the community at large. Those types of troubles, that's what we're dealing with. Not so much so, let's say, financial shit or well, let me just keep it simple without going on too many tangents. All right, let me just see what this is about. Especially because different, I suppose, communities would identify different things as problems, right? That too, and I don't want to get it too congested with analogies that are more tangent directed. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so on one level, you have the trouble, the problems, the domestic shit, and on another level, you got the resolution of these difficulties, right? Again, like, you think about why people do offerings sometimes and sacrifices is to, ask for some things to be resolved, right? So bringing some things back to its union. Think about compromise as well. When you want to get back with somebody and understand their point of view and understand where you want to go with the relationship. After a fight, you got to make some compromise and some sacrifice. Again, you got the purification and healing coming back, right? That, a rainstorm brings purification and healing as well as a little bit of disruption and the calm after a storm and community, tying all this shit together. What else I got here in my notes? I hope the audio is good. I hope I stay audible. Some of my audio sometimes, my voice kind of like gets drowned out in the background. But I made sure as best as I could that the audio in the background is not going to affect how you're able to hear what I'm trying to say. So again, this shit has a very feminine tone. This Cauac energy. Again, you can think about the love for community and family as being founded and grounded within the feminine principles. So the wife, the midwife, the mother, and also them being in the heart of the household. Midwives bringing newborns into this world. Home and mother are the same word in the Yucatan language, or the Yucatec language, so to speak. So, and home is where the heart is. Heart, emotions, feminine principle. Back to that. So we're gonna, even when you think about the water element as well, it has feminine undertones to it as well. So Cauac can be seen as a day sign of the eternal feminine. And female healers, midwives, this is their day. And the day before storm is the day of knife. And knife carries a different energy, but it's also, if a woman is born on the knife day, they're often very, very beautiful, very attractive. And some of them turn into midwives as well. So this piggybacks off of a lot of feminine energy signatures over here. And it's associated with childbirth as well. You can even think about the process of, a woman giving birth and how uh, even to say that that's like a storm, some women will call that an understatement because of how, you know, difficult and strenuous that process is. But it is like a storm in a sense, right? And as a guy, I don't want to get too much into what it feels like to give birth to a child, because they as a brother, they gonna just shut you down and say you got no idea what it feels like. You don't know what you're talking about. So but anyway, these are notes I got from my research, so I'm gonna use that a little bit in my defense, if that's all right with you. Yeah, one interesting here. So one interesting thing over here. God damn, I gotta work on my talking. Again, midwives in ancient times used quartz crystals as divinatory instruments to see within the mother's womb and judge the growth of the fetus, which I really like. So this Jason is also associated to some level with quartz crystals, Uh, yeah. And don't forget, it's also because of the level of energy that this sign carries, the vigorousness, the youthfulness, the liveliness. That's also connected to its high level of life force energy, and Koyopa, which is body lightning, or you would call that Kundalini if you're from the Hindu mystic perspective. And they get the word from Maya as well, which is Kultanlilni. Kultalilni is the Mayan original word, which later on becomes Kundalini, and the Hindu traditions, because the Mayans were, they pretty much went around the world sharing their shit. But they got a word for it, which is Koyopa, which means lightning in the blood. Same shit, that primal energy that gives life to shit, that serpentine or serpentine English, that serpentine, life force from the soul type shit. Anyway, moving on, we want to get more into some aspects of the character. I touched on the community aspect and went deeper into the idea of purification, resolution, trouble, family dynamics, the social context, which is the proper context to see what kind of storm this storm is about. Think of a storm over a community. It's about community shit. Okay, community troubles. But also, there are some personal storms that we're going to get into as well. But I'm going to tie that more within states of consciousness, which will lead to a major point when it comes to shadows and shadow traits. We're going to get into the shadow aspects of this day sign. So yeah, sometimes they may think that people, there are statements out there that folks with this day sign are going to be challenged by their own karma, and the lives are going to have a lot of confusion in it, because again, storm, the word storm and all that, and social drama, whatever. But not so much so, right? It's actually because these guys are very purely and basically it's very sensitive. They have a very sensitive nature, and their sensitivity is actually one of their best qualities. Like I said earlier, they're very sensitive, although they have a shell around them to sort of protect them in a sense. But they're extremely sensitive. They're more. What I'm trying to say is that they're more sensitive than you would notice. And think about the water aspect as well. That sensitivity that water has. Okay, we're gonna tie all that together. They're very good-natured, caring people, extremely friendly again, and kind. And back to the emotional shit. They may be believed to have emotional difficulties, although don't really have major financial problems. And their material circumstances are quite comfortable. But again, the emotional side of things is where the trouble stirs up. So you can think about, okay, I got what I wanted to say. So you can think about the drama in terms of what is related to the water element and water storm element. So their emotionality, right, their sensitivity, and then the community part of things that we already discussed. They very much value human relationships. Like I said earlier, friends and family are so important to them, more than their life achievements or achievements within the outside world. Uh, they're not terribly ambitious to the point where they overlook family. They overlook their social lifestyle, so to speak. Right? They care about the family community very much. They wouldn't, if they're a leader, they wouldn't steamroll the needs of the community for their quote unquote big ideas, right? They would sacrifice, uh they would sacrifice, because some folks are like the more mad scientist type kind of person, where they would invent shit like atomic bombs and all that bullshit, right? And completely disregard how the community would feel about it. But like I said, they're like a storm above a village or city. They're in touch with the communal consciousness about of their community, so they got they respect that. They're a part of that. And their sense of community leads them to value other people very highly and care for them very deeply. But also they may have a downside. And this goes with, especially with the relationship to their mother. And we're going to get that, because they may value their mother almost too much sometimes. We're gonna get into that one as well. They may have a hard time abandoning their family system. I want to get into this one first, right? Sometimes, again, like I said, this is a sacrificial kind of energy, so they may sacrifice a lot for their family, and maybe even forget to seek their own individual needs or destinies, right? They may give up a job to help a family restaurant, and maybe that may not pan out, or you know they're good at putting themselves aside for the greater good of society and family. Excuse me. So that's part of the tendency of what their energy would compel them to do. And it's really important to really think about a bit of reciprocity here as well. You may be water, but don't drain yourself dry all the way, because that would not be satisfying. That would be an abuse of storm sign energy. And sometimes these folks are sensitive to gossip and like to gossip, and are very concerned of what people around them think. And sometimes they may be into gossip as well, and that could be annoying to some folks. Very loving with their children. Like I said, piggybacking off of the love for home, love for family. They're they're gonna love their children to death. They're gonna smother their kids. They're gonna possibly spoil them very much as well. But just smother their kids in love. I just realized the word smother has mother in it. Okay. What else do I need to touch on? Storm energy, folks. Storm energy. This is really fun. I really love doing research on this and getting all this together. Yeah, it was very, very fun. I just want to make sure before I move forward, I touch on everything I wanted to touch on. Very romantic, extremely romantic, relationship-oriented people. But they may have a difficulty mediating between the demands of a relationship and the original family. So new relationship versus original family or original mother. Okay? This could be one of their dilemmas. You can't please everybody sometimes, though. You can't please everybody sometimes. And this is how the love for family and close ties can sometimes get them in a bit of trouble or a bit of a sticky situation. As Jada Pinky would put it, a fucking entanglement. And especially because, No one wants to compete with mother, the great mother. No one wants to go against their mother, especially a storm sign native, right? A person native to the sign of Cauac. Cauac people are very well known for domestic difficulties and marital, marriage issues. This is a very feminine sign, like I said. Women respond to it a lot better than men do. Well, with women, they're more in their element. Men may have to do a little bit of a dance to fit into the gloves, right? You know what I'm saying? Women can make very good midwives, and it's in Maya, it's the archetype of the midwife, the exact archetype of the midwife. Or there's a lot of divine feminine principles in this. If you want to look at, well, the thing about the word divine feminine, I just think that feminine nature is divine in and of itself. No need to add the word divine to prefix it because it's not broken. I think the relationship that we have with feminine nature is what is somewhat broken and needs to be fixed. But femininity, as a principle in and of itself, is not broken. It's like saying electricity is broken. So I don't like using words like divine feminine or divine masculine. It's just like divine should be just part of what you understand it to be. Alright, so I'm gonna correct myself on that. And I'm gonna correct these fucking notes on that right now. I just noticed that shit just slipped by me. Anyway, where are we now? Oh yeah. So very feminine nature that this sign has and carries. Where am I? Cause I just I just fixed that shit and I don't know where I am. Oh yeah, okay. I had to talk about the men who have this sign, all right? Because with women, they're very much in their feminine element. With men, oh yeah, one thing about the women is that they're not going to be tomboyish. Very unlikely that you're gonna find a tomboy woman who has a storm sign. Okay, they just have a very traditional feminine appearance. A woman who would have a more tomboyish appearance will be born, let's say, on a day of like deer, because deer carries a very heavy masculine signature, right? And Aaliyah, she had a tomboyish appearance as well some of the time. So she was born on the day of deer. She was a native of the deer sign, and that explains. Although she loves to be feminine, she likes to appear in a somewhat more, masculine, tomboyish appearance as well. So, if anyone was wondering, it's all within the energy. It's all within the energy. And with the men, men who have, back to storm sign, they can appear to be somewhat androgynous, right? Or be very good at communicating with women. You know what I'm saying? So, no judgment. It's just the energy that they got within them. And they may have a sense of intuition that appears to be very feminine as well. And when you think about the androgynous type of men, oh, let me just give you an example of a man who was born on the day of storm. You got motherfucking Prince, okay? Prince. And I was kind of surprised when I saw this too, but it made a lot of sense. Prince is a storm native, very passionate, very, sensitive in the sense. He had a certain level of androgyny in his appearance, and yeah, so it's part of the energy. And someone else who has a storm sign is Lenny Kravitz. Lenny fucking Kravitz. This guy, and you know what? You just gotta Google these niggas, and you will see the androgyny kind of slip out. Actually, it's not slipping out; it's out there. Full disclosure, my nigga. Full disclosure. So, if anyone was wondering, it's in the energy. It's part of who they are. They're living in their nature, and they're embracing it and accepting it. And it's just how it is. It's just how it is. And what they do is right for who they are. You know what I'm saying? You can't just piggyback off of that if that's not your honest energy and pretend to be like that. Every nigga gotta be who they are and respect the energy and spirit that they are, which is why we kind of do Mayan astrology, or it's just astrology in general, to just hold up a mirror to yourself and identify who you are and accept who you are, and it's gonna be who you knew yourself to be all along, but sometimes we kind of second guess ourselves. And this shit that we're doing right now, right here, allows us to bypass that second guessing and just really live within our nature. Which, in that case, if you want to get a reading from me, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm link in bio. Sorry, no, link in the description, or DM me on Instagram. Again, all the information will be in the description if you want to get a Mayan astrology reading from me. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Oh yeah. Okay, back to men who are native to the sign. They are, again, they may have a feminine intuition, feminine energy mixing up with their masculine side to create androgyny. They may be very psychic. They're really good at communicating with the opposite sex, with women, and but they may experience some marital difficulties as well. And this could be because of their attachment to their birth family or mother, right? So they got a little conflict between their birth family and new family, and attachment issues over here. But one good thing is that they're very productive and talented people in whatever profession they choose to get into. And they can also make very good craftsmen as well. Sometimes they do have health difficulties, right? And this is for Cauac or storm natives in general. Sometimes the chronic health problems within my society was looked at. As they may be destined to take on a healing path, right? And that happens a lot as somewhat of an initiatory calling, or a symbol that one is called if they get a lot of chronic health issues and they're called to take on a more divine healing or spiritual path. And they do make good herbalists and midwives, like I said. They're also very psychic and clairvoyant, and that you can attribute to their koyopa, or lightning in the blood. And they can get a lot of messages in their dreams as well. Excuse me. I had a little burp right there. Anyway, yeah, that was an overview of the characteristics and, a deeper understanding about this energy. And the last section right now, I want to get into the shadow aspect. So their shadow is, they got a fear of the unknown in a sense. And this is when I talk about shadow aspects, we're talking about when shit goes wrong, right? When the personality of this day sign turns on itself and starts to manifest in the opposite direction, or in basically a shadow. I don't want to use too many words to say something that we already know, so let's get into it. So fear of the unknown, issues of addiction, feelings of despair, separation from source or spirit, judging your physical transformational process, feelings of futility and despair again, and denial. And the way to transform these shadows is to step free from denying yourself and judging your experiences and limiting beliefs and that kind of stuff. Access your essence self to carry you through the intense feelings that accompany profound growth, right? So being in tune with themselves and not judging that, not judging their transformation, whether it's physical or spiritual. And they have this thing with the illusion of separation, right? Where they kind of feel that separation from source or spirit. And I want to kind of go deeper into these shadow aspects and ways to overcome their shadows, or transform and transmute their shadows into something better. And I'm going to use the relationship between the glyphs that surround them. We're going to get into that. This is going to be some really interesting stuff. So their fear subconsciously stems from them feeling like they are the bridge between physical and non-physical realities. Okay, and this causes an energetic stress, a form of energetic stress, where they feel like they're separated from spirit or source, because they're in between, physical shit and non-physical shit. You know what I'm saying? And here is why. The day sign that is before storm is the day sign of knife. It's a very mental, analytical kind of energy. Not they're not the most spiritual people necessarily because they use their mind. Although they had that potential, they're very much intellect based people, right? Their mental prowess is what is valued in them, and it does. I want to use the right words. They're very much into the intellect, the logic, versus the more, enlightenment type ways of thinking. Okay, that spiritual evolution kind of thing. They're really good at tools. They're really good at helping society with mental skills and skills of craftsmanship in a sense, right? Building tools that are going to should I say building tools? You could see that in a sense. I want to be very careful with how I describe knife energy right here, because I can get into some stuff, but what I wanted to more so key on the fact of on one hand you have intellect, a very strong attachment to intellect. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I apologize. A strong attachment to intellect and the perception that that attachment to intellect gives you, which is very much based on the evidence of the physical world and physical reality and working with that. Okay. Whereas on the right, or the on the right hand side of the glyph of storm, or the energy or day sign after storm, is called light or ancestors. Okay, so this is, basically you went up into the spiritual realm, so to speak. Yeah, there's a lot of, religious, spiritual, you know, it can say opening or awakening in a sense, but definitely some strong spiritual undertones within the day sign of ancestors or light or sun. It's also called the sign of sun. Okay, so how the psyche works with this energy is that it's very much its perception is geared towards those things, right? Things involving mysticism and spirituality and the light. Like if you think about the heavenly light, and your perception being tuned into that so-called heavenly or higher dimensional lights. Okay, and so the storm sign is sitting right in between these two energies, like a bridge. It's sitting right between these two forms or kinds of perception. One perception is towards the evidence of the physical world and dealing with that through the intellect, and the other perception, which is the day sign after that, of ancestors and light, is bringing about a perception of seeing into the spiritual world for that and seeing that spiritual light. Okay, and slotted right in between these two different forms of perception, you got your fucking storm energy, and they are like the bridge between that. But so that being a bridge, you sort of are the one that's holding the tension, right? You're connecting these two. It's sort of like you got two folks or two friends who are arguing about two separate opinions, and you're trying to get them together because they're your two best friends. There's a bit of, you just want to be. There's a bit of stress that's going on over there. You know what I'm saying? So being slotted between such, completely, almost opposite kinds of energies or opposite perceptions, right? It can feel, there is a stress that comes out of that, and there is a fear. They feel the fear of transcending from one level of perception into another, and the mediate in between. And this is also part of being slotted in between these two different energies is also part of their you could say gift, right? Where they're stretched between limits. Okay, and You can think about the storm in a sense where it's actively affecting both worlds, you know. It's actively when you have a rainstorm like you got in the background, there's that energy, you know what I'm saying? It's a very intense energy. Like something is going on in between over here. That something is going on between the heavens or at the heavens, so on. You can think about the lightning bolt that connects the clouds to the ground, and the sizzling energy that's in between that lightning bolt for that flash of a second, and how threatening it can feel, how frightening it can feel for people on the ground, and the force of it, right? So they got some of that, going on. Hope I was doing a good job to explain that for you. And the thing is, as a person who likes to take risks, because storm energy people like to take risks, this is actually the biggest risk of all that they can take, that they actually should take. They may have a fear of losing what they love and what they have, and possibly losing their own mind. Again, because of how extreme it may feel for them to bounce from one level of perception to another, or to be in between that. But this is the best risk that they can take. And if you think about and this is also what I wanted to say, the jump, it's almost like a quantum leap, right? It's a huge jump from this level of perception or energy to another one, from knife to ancestors and storm in between. That allows you to think of how these people are very bold, and how they're really good at taking risks, and how they have such energy to like just jump and go, you know. And there's a certain level of, youthful, vigorous energy and bravery and liveliness that it takes, and confidence, or like I said, bravery that it takes to be able to do that. Okay. Anyway, they do have. The thing is, and I'm gonna tie this back to the more of the shadow aspects of getting into addictions, right? They do have a potential to transcend earthly reality, to enter into higher forms of awareness, right? But sometimes they may do this via substance abuse, right? To sort of curb maybe certain pains or certain things that they need comfort for. So they may abuse substances like drugs. They may abuse material comforts, relationships, uh, sex, right? Material possessions. They may, be addicted to work, be addicted to sex, and all that kind of stuff, and have an abusive relationship with these things. And one what you call it? It's not really a quote, but one phrase that I read that I really liked a lot is that addictions are like incomplete rites of passage, where compulsive behavior creates a feeling of being trapped rather than being free. Okay. And these addictions may offer the appearance of freedom, but only a real spiritual connection can offer true freedom. Like only if they really work with their shadows and free themselves from what's keeping them from truly being free will they actually enjoy freedom. They took the negative, let's say the more shadowy routes to, enter these altered states of consciousness, rather than, take the more healthier route, the more holistic route. And what do I want to get into? Yeah, they may experience feelings of denial when it comes to the oneness of spirit. Again, because they may feel polarized between two different perceptions, and they start to question if they really are one with spirit, because their energy kind of dabbles in between that, evidence of the physical world type perception versus seeing into the light kind of perception. So them being in between, they may kind of question themselves and question who they are, because they have a bit of both. I'm gonna take a touchy example. Mixed kids, right? They may feel a sense of, I don't know what part of the family I belong to. I don't know who I am. Am I, Am I Filipino or am I white? Am I black or am I Spanish? You know what I'm saying? I feel divided, and the truth is they're like a combo of both. They're that, and they don't need to feel it, but they can go into this shadow, thought pattern of feeling denying themselves a part of their identity that they actually have. Denying their oneness with something because they feel slotted in between. I hope these analogies help. I apologize if they may get kind of touchy, but I just wanted to keep it real. And this was the best thing that came into my mindset right now. Yeah, so that's where you kind of get the denial of them being spiritual or of their oneness with spirit. You know, that's where you get this fear of not being connected to source. And they gotta let go of the judgments and belief systems, and they just gotta accept themselves as they are, including their humanity too. Okay, they gotta give themselves license to be who and what they are, and this will start to help allow that freedom to come to the surface. Sometimes separation can be seen as a guide back to union. So they gotta accept their nature, and accept just understand where the tension within their psyche is coming from related to this topic, and understanding that can be very helpful to heal their outlook on this and their relationship to themselves in this regard. And that will help to bring them back into more harmony with divine will and the divine selves. And shit like Mayan astrology readings can help. Hit me up. Anyway, going on. Yeah, this is to help them get back to their fullest freedom, which is that it's something that it means a lot to them. Freedom, the concept of freedom and the idea of it. I mean, they're storm folks anyway. Freedom is part of their DNA. They got to get back to it. So all these limitations of separation, all that limitations and separations they're the illusion. Freedom is without measure. Freedom is without measure, and they gotta tune in their perception to, that kind of concept, or even explore ideas of freedom, philosophically, metaphysically, what it means to them as well, and really, pay attention to that. And they have the ability to be non-attached in a sense, although they're very sensitive. They can their storm energy can because of how you think of things moving very quickly in a storm, it doesn't allow things to remain stagnant in one place. So again, tying that back to non-attachment, right? It's just quickly moving. That the energy of change is very active within them. So, and change really forces you to not be attached to one state of things, or one state or condition of things. So allowing the wisdom of that to also play a role in their understanding of self, and just feel more of an actor deciding what role they want to play, and enjoying the performance that they're putting on as a spiritual being, a divine person, right? And knowing that they have the power of the choice within every moment, right? And that's part of where freedom lies in too, knowing that you are at choice at every moment. What else? One last thing I want to touch on before I go. This is about almost over. Yeah, when I touch on freedom, don't forget, they have a strong ability to experience high states of freedom and ecstasy, right? Spaciousness, dissolution, just dissolving themselves into bliss, right? They should really think about that and meditate on that. And they also gotta face the emotions, because I mentioned earlier emotional struggles, and covering that up with addictions. They gotta really go do the shadow work, and most of shadow work is inner child shit. So they gotta go explore their childhood consciousness and issues with that, to sort of bring healing and light to those issues, and surrender to their sensitivity. And they should allow themselves to cry if they need to cry. Uh, maybe the men as well, because you know how guys are when it comes to crying and stuff. But basically, again, crying, tears, vulnerability, sensitivity, water, rain, storm. It's all here. It's all in the bag. And yeah, that's pretty much a breakdown of storm sign energy, storm day sign energy, or Cauac, which is the Mayan Yucatan word for it. This was fun. This was enjoyable. I really loved it. Hope y'all learned something today. Let me know what other sign y'all. I want to go through all 20 day signs and break all of them down eventually. This is the second one I'm doing. I'll do more, but yeah. Hope this was great. If you got any questions about storm energy, you can leave it below. And again, if you want to get a Mayan calendar reading for your day sign and tree of life chart and all of that, use the links in the bio to reach out to me and purchase one if you want. But I'm going to be putting out as much information as I can about the Mayan calendar, because this information is needed out there. And with that being said, thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you guys have a good day, night, or whatever, depending on when you're listening to this. But yeah, peace out. This is great. This is fun. Take care, guys. Take care.